Today we're going to take a closer look at the Black Series 6-inch RC-1138 action figure.
Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hey everybody, thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the RC-1138 Republic Commando 6-inch action figure from Hasbro's Black Series Gaming Greats subline. You can see the Gaming Greats foil sticker there on the cover of this box. Boss RC-1138 is the first Republic Commando that we've got in this line. We are expecting the entirety of Delta Squad, and we'll be hopefully reviewing those on this channel very shortly. I'm a big fan of this character and the character design. I've been costuming as Boss RC-1138 for over 15 years now. Big fan of his representation in the Karen Travis novels as well as, of course, the original Republic Commando game. We see reference to the Republic Commando game on the back here in terms of the old Republic Commando font, which is quite a cool style. Got a little bit of a bio on the back of the box alongside the character art there. RC-1138 Boss, who is the lead of Delta Squad, of course. Republic Commando introduced the elite Delta Squad, a team of clone commandos dispatched to handle the most dangerous missions for the Republic. I am, as I say, excited to see this entire squad come out in action figure format. We've got them in a few other versions in our collection, including Gentle Giant busts and older 3.75-inch action figures. But let's take a look inside the box and see how this 6-inch version compares. Okay, going to open the box at the bottom and get them out. I don't think there are too many accessories in this collectible here. I can see that he's got a DC-17M weapon in there, the standard version, which he's famous for, unlike some of the other members of Delta Squad who have the customized versions of the weapon system. And of course his backpack there. Here he is in his plastic tray. Let's pop him out and have a look at his detail and articulation. One backpack with a simple shaped peg on the back that should attach cleanly on the back of the action figure. Alright, a version of the DC-17M weapon. A little bit undersized, some might say, for a 6-inch scale. We'll come back to that though. And the action figure himself. I do like the helmet design, of course, as well as the overall armor design. There are a few differences between the way he was represented in the game and the animated series, and some might say that this version is based a little bit more on the animated series, and I'll talk about that shortly. Let's get this backpack on there and see how well it goes. There's a T-shaped peg so that we know which way up it goes, and a tight fit, but it attaches in there quite nicely with minimal gap, as you can see. His version of the DC-17M is the standard version. It doesn't have the sniper attachment or the anti-armor attachment that Sev the Sniper and Scorch the Demolition Expert respectively have. It is a shame that he doesn't come with any other additional weapons, because Boss is known for having the additional blaster sidearm, the DC-17S, which is sometimes shown with as an alternate weapon to this large heavy-duty blaster rifle. Now, this is a slightly underscaled version of the DC-17M, and part of the reason for that is because pretty much from the head down, this figure, this sculpt, is based on the Bad Batch Hunter action figure, and they had slightly different, slightly smaller versions of the DC-17Ms in that series, and that carried over to the action figure design. So a little bit undersized compared to some representations, but we're going to let that pass for now because it is such a cool character, and I'm really stoked to have him in hand. I love the helmet sculpt. Look at that up closely. We've got a shiny blue finish on his visor, which is hopefully picking up the light there. The visor is kind of backlit in the game and in other versions of the character, and we're getting that effect there with that sort of reflective paint job, paint apps to his T-visor. The orange, some might say, is perhaps a little bit off, a little bit dark, a little bit deep compared to how he's shown up elsewhere, which is a slightly more brighter, vibrant sort of hazard orange, but still clearly recognizable as the key color of this character. Each of the Delta Squads have a different color on their armor for highlights and details. A little bit of weathering across his abdomen and thigh and shoulder pauldron there. These characters have traditionally shown up as being quite heavily weathered because they see a lot of action and they're often in the field doing special ops without returning to base for quite some time, so the armour does sort of reflect that. In terms of articulation, we seem to have a ball joint at the neck helmet there. The shoulder pauldrons are articulated separately, so we get good freedom of movement through the shoulder, a little bit sticky there, but the shoulder pauldron just kind of follows that, it doesn't restrict it, and it sits back down there. We've got a few planes of rotation and movement at the elbow, so we can rotate that as well as flex and extend it. And at the wrist there, we've got rotation and a little bit of ball joint movement, which is kind of useful hopefully for posing and holding his weapon with two hands, which we'll see shortly. Same on the other side. We've got articulation at between the abdomen and the torso, just a little bit, restricted by the sort of sculpt there on the whole. Doesn't look like waist articulation. We've got multiple planes of movement at the hip. You can see the armour rotating around the undersuit there, which is kind of an interesting way to do it. And he can flex his thigh reasonably well before it starts to impinge on the groin armour. We've got free floating knee armour plates, which are attached to the thigh, so when you move his knee, when you bend his knee like that, the knee plates stay in the place. When we get down to the calf armour, you can see that there's some quite cool sculpted in weathering there, which are kind of, yeah, we can see a little bit of up here on the torso as well. Quite nice to have that sort of sculpted in battle damage, and a lot of movement at the ankles. Yeah, really just one plane of movement at the ankles, which we'll see how that plays into posing very shortly. A key thing for characters with rifle type weapons is whether or not they can hold them with two hands. He only has a trigger finger on his right hand, not on his left, so with a bit of work we should be able to get him to hold his blaster with two hands, which is a really cool pose, which means he can sort of just stand in a two-legged stance and look quite menacing and quite action and ready for action, at least, rather than just sort of being a neutral pose with just his arms at the side. I like that style of pose, so I'm really glad that he's got a sculpt on his left hand that facilitates that, and presumably that will carry over to the other Republic Commando action figures as well. Now, some good sculpting detail on the forearms, highlighting all the standard details we'd expect from the armor. There is a pin on the left pinhole, and that's a carryover from the fact that this is a reuse of the Hunter sculpt from the neck down. There are a couple of features that distinguish this character from, or this version of the character from the game version. The sort of animated style, they don't have the big elbow plates that the original game versions had, and Boss in particular traditionally has a separate second layered pauldron on his right hand side, which doesn't really show up here. He's just got that single layered pauldron painted orange rather than a separate orange one over the base armor. So we can let that slide because it is a little bit closer to the animated style than the game style. It still approximates the canon version, even though it's a little bit of a cheat by using the Hunter body from the neck down. The other main overall aspect of the reuse of armor there is that he's a little bit less bulky than he appeared in the games and in other versions like the Gentle Giant busts. But again, that's not too unexpected because Hasbro does tend to reuse sculpted components a little more for the Gaming Greats lines than they do for some of the other characters in their main lines. Now, again, in terms of the reuse of the sculpt, some might argue that it's a little bit of a cheat because we are expecting 4 figures. If they'd done a resculpt of some of the aspects of the armor, it would have been reused for at least 4 different characters, and they could go beyond Delta Squad as well for plain Republic Commandos or even Omega Squad down the line, and they could have got quite a lot of use out of a new sort of chest sculpt, a broader chest sculpt, and perhaps. And the other thing is, Boss is the first out of the gate, and he is in some ways the more simple of the Republic Commando characters, Delta Squad characters specifically. He doesn't have some of the other customizations. He's got a standard backpack, unlike Scorch and Fixer. He's got a standard weapon, unlike Sev the Sniper and Scorch, who has the anti-armor attachments. Scorch, the figure, is also going to come out with the big thigh attachments with the weapon, spare weapon, grenades attached to his thigh. So I'm looking forward to those other ones and sort of having them all lined up. The fact that Boss is a little bit more plain than some of the others is fine, because once we have them all lined up, those distinguishing features will really, really stand out. So Hasbro may have taken a couple of little cheats to get this figure to us. Am I mad about that? No, I love this character and I'm really, really happy to have him in my collection. I'm really thinking that, as I say, Delta Squad in its entirety are going to look really good together. It could have been done a shade better in a couple of aspects, but now that I've got him in hand and out of the packaging, I like the way he poses. He's got a good stance, even though he is a little bit skinnier than expected. The overall proportions are not bad. Some might say the thighs are a little bit skinny for a character of this type, but when I have him standing here, I'm quite happy with that overall look. That stance, his natural pose has his feet a little bit wider apart, you know, sort of shoulder width apart. I think that looks really quite cool, and I am overall happy with that. I'm going to take a bunch of photos, see if we can get some photos in slightly different poses and show off all of the details of this figure up close, and I'll put some of those up now and more of those up on our blog. But if you'd like to stick around and wait for us to get some videos up of the rest of Delta Squad, do subscribe to the channel for notifications when those come out. But for now, thanks for watching as we review this RC-1138 action figure. Subscribe for notifications for more videos if you're keen on hearing about us and our collectibles as we live the Star Wars life. Thanks for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.